Hello and welcome everyone to episode 140 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, letterer of manga like Dragon Ball Super, Kaiju number 8, and many, many more, and we are kind of barreling towards episode 150 here, and I had a passing thought. I was like, no matter where we're at for 150, it'll be a lot better than 100.
Yeah. Oh gosh, what did we have for 100 again? It was one of the movies. Oh, it was
the Alabasta movie.
That's right. It was episode of Alabasta. It has to be better than that.
True. I feel like with only so much Fishman Island left at this point, like I think we're probably past any other like canon content that I think might be like truly bad.
Mm-hmm. The funny thing to me is that episode 150, kind of no matter where it kind of ends up, is going to be, I'm almost ready to officially call that when I'm actually completely blind.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
And I'll be honest, I've been feeling almost completely blind for the last couple here because I know Fishman Island, but I don't remember certain aspects.
That's why I am so giddy. I'm giddy because there's a lot of things that I have already known that you don't remember about the next arc, and I'm also not to punch down, but ready to move on, but also like, oh boy, if you don't remember this, we're I feel like it's sort of a gradual, like the next 50 to 100 chapters or so, or at this point, the next 50 chapters is sort of like the transition into completely like, all right,
this podcast is about to change, kind of.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Well, let's keep moving towards that and actually get to the chapters for this set, starting with 636, General from Futureland. And we finally get to check in on Drum Island, the Cherry Blossom Kingdom, and we've hired out those rabbits, and boy, that's a good move.
Yeah, it's just got like a big old club.
Those rabbits will mess you up, so good job, Dalton.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about the Royal Knights
no.
for Drum Island. I also think, is Cherry Blossom Kingdom new?
Yes, they renamed it the Cherry Blossom Kingdom.
Okay. I thought so, but I just wanted to confirm.
They definitely made sure of that. So, yeah, it's I like who we get to check in on this time around.
Yeah, no, these Decks of the World continues to be some of my favorite stuff so far, as far as covers. Like, it's just it feels like we've made it so far, like, and we've had it's just kind of nice to reflect, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, just been traveling, like, sort of redoing the journey they've taken up to this point.
Because it's in order, which I don't know if we had talked about that before.
I don't think so, but it's kind of obvious in how we were treating it. But
Oh yeah. It is. It's not, doesn't really bear pointing out, but it's kind of like, I love seeing where we've been, how far we've come.
It's always fun to look back like that. But let's get into the chapter itself, where we have recruited Surmei back into the party, who Luffy has enlisted to protect Wimpy Hoshi. I love his smile. That's such a good smile.
Yeah. Surmei is such a good boy, which I didn't think I would say, but and it is really funny how it feels like the transformation has been so fast. When we first encountered him, it was like, oh God. And now he's just a funny little guy.
Yeah. Well, big guy, but yeah. The group is starting to be disrupted because we might have our tanks, but what is it, Darume or whatever, is chomping out the ground beneath them, honeycombing the towers, and just sending all of the tanks and the motorcycle that Frankie was riding straight into the pits.
Yeah. And then, of course, as the mecha fan I was like, where is he going with this? And then because Frankie basically like kicks out all the other Straw Hats who are in the tank, and he's basically just like, all right, there's only room for one, and they start to combine.
Yes, they do. And immediately Usopp and Chopper are like, talking. Oh my God, there it is. And we get introduced to Iron Pirate General Frankie.
He's got a Gundam.
He built himself a mech. Apparently, he even says, Vegapunk, your dream has come true. I succeeded in developing a shape memory alloy WAPO metal, what's WAPO mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
It reminds me too much of Wapple, so that's why I was like, does. Wait a second.
I might have to check something on that later. I don't think it's anything, but I'm like, hold on a second. But of course, I feel like you can draw a straight line from that scene in Thriller Bark where Frankie made them all combine.
He's like, dang it, I'm going to make this work next time. And I like how
and you
General Frankie, it really is just a mech version of Frankie with drill pompadour and all.
Yes, absolutely. If you missed the pompadour hair, it's here in the mech. I also love the sort of subtle gag throughout this whole section, and I think it was in some of Lassette's chapters too, where just like the girls are completely unimpressed.
Yes, that is. They don't draw attention to it like before, but you just see Nami in the background being like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, and same on the next page with Robin. She's just, all right, yeah. that's just kind of it. It's not really brought attention to, but it's fun seeing all of the other male Straw Hats turn into 7-year-old boys. You see them. General Frankie here pull out the sword of the pillager, Franken, and he starts sweeping under their feet.
And then when they jump up, he unleashes his Frankie cannon, where he just opens up the cockpit and just fires it with his own guns.
It's great. I feel like Oda he just really wanted to draw this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we also get a standout moment for Nami, who they're like, this one looks weak, and she just immediately dodges them and creates a freaking wind sword. That's awesome.
Yeah, and even seeing her and Usopp get in on the action, and Usopp even, he says out loud, like, you're not like you used to be. Stand your ground. And so he gets a couple attacks in as well, and it's nice, Mm-hmm. It's everybody, like, there's no room for gags here.
No, it's definitely like, hey, this is the training I did. Shout out to the people who trained us. Let's show what they were able to do. And even that Daruma, who was, chomping around down underneath, gets kicked out of it thanks to the form we got a little taste of in that one 2-page spread. Now we're actually seeing it. And it actually we get an explanation for how Chopper's improved himself. So those are his old forms. They just sort of changed their appearance, which I'm not a fan of the face, but I do dig the horns of Horn Point.
I dig the horns specifically. I think the rest of it is, it's kind of whatever. But it is cool now, basically, that Chopper only needs the Rumble Ball for one form. And it's got to be the monster form, right?
Didn't he have 7 forms before? Because we see the Puffball, the reindeer form, his normal form, the Horn Point, and then the weird Kung Fu one. What's the... 1, 2, 3. We don't see that. We've only seen 5. So Oda's holding 2 of them back. Okay,
so maybe... I genuinely don't remember.
Yeah, we haven't seen his humanish form unless the Kung Fu form is the humanish form.
Oh, okay. I think that might be it. I think the human form is counted in... I mean, because obviously you wouldn't need a Rumble for that one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold fast to my assumption that he still needs a Rumble Ball for the monster form.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure we'll get a bit more of explanation as time goes on, but I like that we have a rival for Chopper in a way. We get to show off what Chopper's able to do now, and it's a fun evolution of his powers, even if the designs are
Yeah. I think that's really what holds it back for me. But like, and I feel like, not to get too ahead of myself, but it does feel like these do get kind of underutilized after, like, pretty quickly. I could be wrong, but I feel like the idea of like, oh yeah, Chopper could just like change between all of these whenever he needs to. I think it's just more of like, so I don't have to write around the Rumble Ball anymore.
Don't have to have that single panel of him eating the Rumble Ball.
Yeah. He can just do it, which is good, but
yeah,
not really brought attention to.
But we learned that the reason Hody has control over Surame is that he has his brother at the North Pole, and he can easily go there and kill him. So even like your carcasses bring in a good price because you guys are legendary. So don't let your sympathy get the better of you. And he does, like, Surame does start crushing Shirahoshi because of this. But Luffy just stares at him and goes, you're only obeying him to protect your brothers. Like, no, if he's the older or younger, why don't you let me protect him too?
This scene's adorable, man. I love this.
Right? It's so
seeing Luffy just like talk to animals like an equal and just be like, hey, like I'm on your side too.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'll take care of you. And, I love the moment of him just, honestly, I thought it was going to be him, like, as he's walking forward and you got the hammerhead and the squid guy getting ready to attack. I thought Luffy was just going to, like, hockey them and not have to do anything. Yeah. But instead, that's when Zoro and Sanji come in.
Which is still an awesome shot.
Oh, yeah.
What a, like, at this point, I feel like we've hit the point where that is very common in One Piece, where all right, like Luffy's pissed off at the enemy and he's just gonna walk up, like, all right, just no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Absolute confidence, and yeah, he just walks up to Hody and just kicks him in the face. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
but we end off the chapter with the Noah's here at the edge of Fishman Island, and that's when Neptune sees it and just like, I know that's unusual, but why are you so agitated? It's like, no, we can't allow any harm to come to the Ark. It must never be moved until a certain day has arrived. And it's like, what?
Yeah, suddenly this thing is super important after just kind of being in the background for the whole arc. And I don't think we really get any more of this throughout the set, unless I'm forgetting something.
I don't think so. Just the princes reiterating that we can't damage the Ark.
Yeah. Which I like that this is here, because this adds, I feel like, a much needed level of tension into this final confrontation. So how are we going to deal with the giant ship?
That's a good question. I completely agree. And as we'll see as we keep going, Noah's kind of the MVP of this set of chapters, because it finally gives us that element that takes it beyond the fights, beyond just standard fights. There's that wrinkle that makes it a little bit more interesting, where, again, like with Skypiea, Luffy's absolutely stronger, but he needs to actually reach Enel.
Yeah. And there's also the thing, I think I did, because I had just said, but like, yeah, the idea that now suddenly we just learned from Neptune offhand, like, oh, we're not supposed to move it. Like, what's that mean?
Yeah. That is sort of the big question, and kind of the only bit of lore we get in this set of chapters, because it is all just about that action.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Which, it's just a sort of like, that's odd. All right, well, we gotta move on. So that's because we got nothing to really build from that, but it is fascinating. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to chapter 637, The Ancient Ark. And time to see what Dr. Correa is up to. And she's enlisted 100 doctors to help out the Cherry Blossom Kingdom.
Did she always have the flame pattern on her pants and jacket?
I want to say yes, but I might be wrong. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah. It's also, is the hat Jolly Roger new?
Yes,
also?
It is. That is. It feels like that's a Jolly Roger that she made specifically for Chopper. And she even has it like on her shirt. Like, she is proud of her son.
Yeah. I kind of read it as her kind of memorializing Dr. Hirulik too.
Yeah, to a definite degree, because it is those two very much tied together.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see there. We begin the chapter with all the other fishmen being like, okay, what's up with that? Hody just took all those energy steroids, turned into a total monster, and he still got knocked down by Straw Hat. It's like, no, he can handle that type of damage.
I feel like by pointing that out, kind of is kind of the problem.
A little bit. And Hody immediately uses his fishman karate to knock Luffy's head back. But of course, this is the first time I think they realize he's made of rubber. And he just proceeds to use Haki to Gum Bell through the iron shells, steel shells, completely blocks Hody's kick with his arm without even really flinching, and then just slamming his face into the ground with it.
Yeah, I love this because this feels like our first time getting a proper like hockey usage in a one-on-one. Like, we're just kind of seeing hand-to-hand combat with Luffy not really using any of his like gum techniques. Like, it's just straight up hockey.
Yeah, and man, that's cool. He's really just styling on Hody. Hody
No, yeah, it really
has
is Luffy
no
just
chance.
like, yeah, Hody tries to use his shark arrows and Luffy is just dodging them with observation hockey. Like, it is just, it's really one-sided.
Yep. So thank God Noah shows up, at least as far as making this battle a little bit more interesting, because, oh good God, it's the apocalypse again.
Yeah. Although, it's very interesting the way that they talk about it. Like, oh yeah, the Noah's here, and it's about to break through, like, the bubble exterior of Fishman Island, which had me thinking, like, well, how does this play into the whole, like, Luffy prophecy then?
Huh. I don't know.
Yeah, it got my mind, like, is this, I don't know.
I honestly have no answer for that one. I got no clue. So yeah, people start freaking out because there's a giant ship coming their way. That's not exactly good. We get the wonderful, of course, macabre stuff from Robin. It's like, oh, if it flattened us all, will the sea be dyed red with our blood?
Good question.
And then here comes Watatsumi falling out of the ship, and he's like, "Hey, Vanderdecken, can you come pick me up?" That's when, Hody gets free after getting knocked into a wall, sees what's happening. It's like, Vanderdecken, what the hell? This was not part of the plan.
Right. Right. Although it's fun that I feel like Hody is kind of getting his just desserts a little bit for teaming up with somebody as just blatantly insane as Vanderdecken. like this feels maybe not necessarily with Noah, but the way that, Vanderdecken's here on the ship, he's striking a pose, he's rocking out, and he's just like, all right, everybody dies.
Yep. Watatsumi, you fell, you're going to die. Bye.
Yeah, pretty much. All because Shirahoshi refuses to marry him.
Yep.
And of course also reiterates, like, once he has thrown something with his devil fruit powers, like, it will not stop until something, until it hits something or obliterated its target.
Which is where we get a wonderful moment for Shirahoshi, who's like, hey, you're targeting me, right? Come at me. Have the ship come this way, because she is the only one who can save the Fishman Island at this point.
Yes. And it feels like now with Noah and Shirahoshi and Vanderdecken's here, it feels like all of the pieces are kind of falling into place, or it feels like kind of the roles that Oda had probably intended for these characters to play. Like it throughout this set of chapters, I kind of felt like the vision is a little more clear now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. We got the players in place. We see the purpose of each, and it brings that greater sense of stakes than we've had before, because as we've demonstrated, 100,000 men are not stopping the Straw Hats. It's just not happening.
And I was a little worried. I was like, well, okay, what do we do now? Because it just felt like, well, we're just going to, like, spin our wheels for the next 20 chapters or what? But this is the kind of thing that I'm really glad for. Because, well, not only is it the kind of stakes that this story was desperately needing, but I really like how Shirahoshi comes off as a character, like, through these next few chapters.
Yes, because it provides that extra balance that we kind of wanted, because Fishman Island's in trouble. Well, now Shirahoshi's in trouble. She just literally got stabbed by Vanderdecken because of his powers, so she's not protected anymore. Because of where everything is, Luffy can't easily protect her anymore. And it becomes this greater sense of like, oh crap, I need to actually be there. And it's even greater because Hody hitches a ride on one of the chains attached to the Noah and is heading up to take care of Vanderdecken, because he's like, hey, screw you for trying to kill me, but good plan. I'm going to take care of this.
It is kind of fun that, like, in the span of a couple of pages, like Hody was like, oh my god, this guy's an idiot. He was trying to kill us all. And then is able to kind of take advantage of them up and go like, you know what? No, we'll roll with this for now.
Yeah. And Luffy's like, hey, I'll take care of it. Sanji, hook me up. And that's when Jinbei hands over a piece of coral that emits bubbles for Luffy. So he's kind of ready to go. And he is off to save Shirahoshi and stop the two big villains, plus the giant ship, which... Nice. That's a nice bit of just extra oomph that we've been wanting.
Yeah, things have escalated quickly. I also, while I was reading this, I was definitely like, oh, okay, so now we're at the point where Luffy he's basically gonna have to fight underwater. You know, he's he'll have some air, but we are definitely now placing him at a sheer disadvantage with 2 fishmen and an actual ship.
Yeah, and that makes the fight far more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, we got that this chapter, like,
what is he gonna do?
And really just reiterating again and again with this chapter, like, yeah, in under any normal circumstances, like, Luffy would trounce Hody in his sleep any day of the week. and it feels like he hasn't even really pushed himself that much. Like, we haven't seen him go all out with like gear 2 or gear 3. Like, he's just like, all right, I'm gonna roll up with hockey and just gonna style on you.
Yeah, very much so. We do have an SBS, and the most interesting one here is, again, something I completely forgot about. God, these fans are amazing. Where way back in Arlong Park, Hachi claimed to be the second best swordsman on Fishman Island.
Oh my god!
Right. Well, guess what? Hyozu was number 1.
That's actually how much of this did he have planned out?
Exactly. Was Hyozu always planned to be the one? But
if anything, that almost feels like, I mean, it could just be a fun detail, but that also gets me thinking, like, because Hyozo he's also kind of a nothing character throughout, like, this. He hasn't really been that important, or like, he's just kind of a guy.
Yeah. And it doesn't add much to him, but I think it also serves as, it kind of works because I could see this being like a joke. It's like, I'm the second best. It's just like,
I was going to say, I feel like, Hachi, are you really? No offense. No offense. I love you, buddy. But
we've never seen him use swords since. But yeah, it's something. It's one of those things that sort of works out there, where Oda takes an element and is able to just work with it.
Yeah, God, there's so many little bits that feel like are coming back as of Fishman Island. It feels like we got all these little hints about it, and now they're all kind of coming back into play. Mm-hmm. You know, just I thinking about how long of a play it was with Jinbei. So
true enough. But let's go ahead and get to the next chapter, 638, Escape Hoshi. And hey, time to check out how Yuba's doing, and Koza's become the Royal Environmental Minister. Good for him.
He got a happy ending. I'm so happy for him. Like, legitimately.
He worked on it, and hey, Toto's keeping the weight off after those 2 years, because he was a big guy before, but like, I'm going to keep it off as they felt. Not sure I recognize the other 3. I just assume that the other 3... Actually, the 2 actual adults are probably just other people that were with Koza for when the whole rebel thing. The kid with Kappa on his shirt, I guarantee that's the one who identified Mr. 2.
Oh!
Yeah. I'm like...
Huh.
It's the same thing with happened before. It's like, where was there a kid? And it's like, right, the kid who happened to see Mr. 2 transform and tried to warn everybody but got attacked instead.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. It's funny what pops into your head when you're trying to rack your brain for characters.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. But we get into the chapter itself and just see the insane visual of Noah straight up on top of Fishman Island. That bubble is creaking. It looks pretty pressed in, so thank God it's pretty pliable.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of get a little bit of a... I'm very thankful for the visual indicators that we get in this chapter, because it is... I feel like in the 3-dimensionality of the ocean, it is a little hard to keep track of where everybody is.
Yeah, and you can see that there's... Thanks to that side view, is next to Shirahoshi, we can see that, oh, okay, so that's why there's stuff above water and below water. They're in that bubble, but it's above water for the stuff for the humans, and there's that below water stuff for all like the mermaids and what we saw before. It finally gave me a sense of place for Fishman Island.
Yeah, which is weird, but I know what you mean. Yeah, this actually kind of seeing it from this angle of like, okay.
Mm-hmm. There were a lot of times where we're like, are they underwater now or not?
Yeah. I'm sure. I bet the anime helps with this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But in black and white, it is kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, just a bit. But yeah, basically, Shirahoshi's still trying to find a way to get out into the open ocean in order to get the ship away enough and save the island and Ryugu Castle. And I believe it's here she remembers that they left out of Ryugu Palace, so the connecting pathway between the two sections. So yeah, she has a goal in mind for where she's going to go. Luffy gets launched by Sanji, who has to really measure how he's going to kick Luffy because he has to get through a lot of layers and don't want to send him out into the open ocean by kicking too hard.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it worked.
Yeah. And thankfully he's able to grab on, actually being a little bit ahead of Hody, thanks to Sanji. And the two of them start climbing up. But also, and I like this moment, the citizens start grabbing onto the chain as well, trying to slow it down just a little bit in order to save Shirahoshi. But of course, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, I like that at the very least, because we have seen the citizens just being as kind of the bystanders at this point in the story, even though, you know, this really is a story about like them in their society. So kind of seeing them take the initiative and being like, no, like our princess is in danger. We need to help. It's just a small little scene, but I actually think it's really, I'm glad that Oda put that there.
Mm-hmm. And it also reinforces Hody just not caring about his own people at all. It's all about the superiority.
I feel like at this point, he's kind of lost the plot.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely under the impression of it's us or them. I don't think he realizes there's a lot more them than us.
Yes. Yeah. And this is a case where I feel like the sort of the theme of the story about kind of like, this is what happens when you let hatred consume you and you're kind of just, you're lashing out at anything that moves, you know, like this aspect of Hody's character, I think I dig.
Yeah, because honestly, there are aspects I can see in today's society, let's be honest.
Yeah.
with Hody. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'm sure you think hard enough, you can definitely find parallels.
Yeah, take that as you will.
Yep. But Shirahoshi is able to pop out into the open sea, make her escape to try to lead it away, and it actually is starting to help. Like, the Noah is getting away from Fishman Island. But of course, this also drags it out of Fishman Island. The chains are going up through. So Luffy has to quickly blow a bubble in order to, you know, survive. But he's in a bubble with Hody right outside.
Yeah, and now he's helpless.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is bad. This is very bad. But, of course, we go to Shirahoshi, and Vanderdecken is just taunting her. It's like, yeah, how's your freedom taste? It's like, will you die of blood loss or get crushed by the giant ship? You know, marry me, and, you know, I'll guarantee your safety. It's like, no, you're just not my type. So
again. And then I love this bit where her brothers show up.
Yes. Our boys are back. They get another chance at having their moment, which, yeah, I got to be honest, they're looking pretty badass.
For how goofy their designs are, it is actually kind of it's really cool seeing them roll up. Like, and again, I think part of that is just after a certain point, I just wanted to root for them so badly and was so disappointed that they got robbed of their moment. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, all right. And I love this gag too, where Vanderdecken just like, oh, my brothers. Just like, we're not your brothers. You're not married yet.
And he's so deluded. It's like, Shirahoshi was just about to agree to marry me. It's like, oh, God.
Yeah, he's also lost the plot too at this point.
But the brothers have a hard job ahead of them because they need to stop the ship, but they can't damage the ship. It needs to be returned to the ocean floor. So it adds that extra level, and already it's crashing through some rocks. It's like, okay, we have to be careful. Don't swim next to any slopes or trenches. So up. We need to get up and away.
This, I feel like, was around the time I really started, like, I sat there and I was like, what is this thing even for?
I really think it is a mass transportation ship that, like, I think it initially got fishermen down here. I think it's eventually going to take them up.
I feel like with the biblical implications, there has to be something along those lines, but it really just kind of had me like, the way that Noah has just kind of been kind of the core set piece now for the past few chapters. It's like, huh.
What is this thing?
Yeah. It is now suddenly really important.
Mm-hmm.
and now it's so important that we have to make sure that we don't break it.
Yeah. But you might notice we've only seen two of the brothers. Where's Fukaboshi? Well, thank God for him, because he saved Luffy, and now Luffy's traveling on his back as Fukaboshi is basically trying to get away from Hody. But Hody, okay, I like this. He pulls out a giant saw blade, his shark slicer, attaches it to his back, so he actually looks like a giant great white shark.
Yeah, I like that he just had it.
Yeah, and he demonstrates his power by just slicing through some giant fish. I don't know if they were Neptunians, but it was definitely a big old fish.
Again, I'm so happy that the brothers are here now, because now we kind of get this cool speech from Fukaboshi, who's just kind of like, basically we have our job to do too. Like, I promised I'd protect my sister, that kind of thing. And like at this point, all of the sort of, doubts and suspicions about Luffy and the other Straw Hats is like, all right, completely out the window. Like, we're on the same side. Let's do this.
Yeah. It makes it fun. And Luffy even has a goal now, because Vanderdecken is a devil fruit user. He needs to have air. So there's actually a pocket of air on the deck of the Noah. So Luffy needs to get there in order to properly fight. Yes. And Shirahoshi's going up. The ship is going up. It's like this whole vertical thing. It is a wild visual.
That is a great shot
to see that. And then here comes Hody landing next to Vanderdecken, and Vanderdecken is just sort of proud of himself. It's like, it's a good idea. I'm just tormenting him. It's like, hey, did you kill Neptune already? It's like, we're such good allies. Stab right through the chest.
And then Hody saying what I was kind of thinking at this point, where it's like, if you die, what happens to the ship? And that's why we have that shot of Noah now directly above Fishman Island, and it's just kind of like, Hody's just like,
Hody seems to have a plan.
Yeah. I for some reason I thought about that stupid meme line from The Dark Knight Rises where Bane's like, with no survivors, just crashing the ship.
Yeah, I like it. Well, we do have an SBS before we move on, and we get to see updated Jolly Rogers for everyone. Because actually merchandising companies were like, hey, what about these? And he's like, okay, I gotta take care of these. And I don't remember what the old ones look like, but I like the new ones.
I think the old ones were probably similar. Like these look really close to the old ones, but they're just kind of updated to reflect the time skip designs. Mm-hmm. I would definitely I gotta double check.
Yeah, I'd have to compare, but it looks good at the very least. And I like this as well, because they're mentioning like, okay, there's a lot of crazy powers that Luffy's been running up against that are just stronger and stronger. And in most manga and anime, the hero has the best and most ultimate power of all. So why did you choose something as weak sounding as rubber for Luffy? And he's like, because I wanted him to be goofy at all times. No matter how serious or dark the story gets, Luffy's still stretching and inflating, and it gives him a chance to lighten the mood. That's just the kind of manga he wants to draw. And okay, knowing what I know of Luffy's current power set, that seems to be like in full display by that point.
Yes. I was racking my brain to like, how do I say this without saying it? But yes.
Yeah.
Oda knows what he wants to draw and how he wants to depict Luffy. And I think that is something that has never really changed. It really is just kind of this, I feel like, is the ethos behind how, I mean, I feel like that's what we see throughout all of Luffy's fights is all of the goofy improvising and stuff, right? Like it's just, even no matter how serious the context, like there will always be a chance to just like have him do something fun and stupid with his body.
It's just entertaining the entire way through.
Yeah.
It really does help lighten the mood in a lot of odd ways, but never loses his badass qualities. And it also, again, you look at the ultimate forms in in Dragon Ball and compare it to Luffy's, and it's like, yeah, there's different ethoses here.
Yeah, and that's like, I think, and just with like shonen comics in general, I feel like there is always the emphasis on making, again, like the main character has to have as cool powers as possible, and I love me a good transformation, right? Like,
look at Ichigo. He goes completely badass in Bleach.
Yeah, yeah, and I do those transformations. They're good every time. I love them, and that is something that not only specifically to the thing that you alluded to, Derek, but also to the many things on the way to get there. I really think that sort of like goofy freewheeling quality really is just what makes Luffy such an entertaining character to watch fight, and what makes him it makes him feel unique.
I agree, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. But let's go ahead and get to chapter 639, Protect Everything. And this time we get to see the guards who are getting new clothes for this year's Reverie, which, timelines are matching up. And I like how they mostly look the same, except Igaram has decided to grow a mustache, it looks like.
Yeah. I like that Chaka, the guy on the right.
Yeah.
I like that he has like Anubis boxers.
Yeah. He has even the J for jackal, since he's a jackal man.
And also you see that the guy who blew himself up.
Yes, he does have a scar.
Big old scar. Yeah.
Pell,
there it is. Thank you.
Yes. I think we saw it before because we saw them hanging out in the bathhouse in one of the intros, I think. But yeah, it's still a nice reminder that, yeah, he blew up. He didn't die, but he did blow up. But we get into the chapter itself, and Hody is still in the middle of stabbing Vanderdecken, and Vanderdecken is like, you fool, I touched you with my left hand, so what do you think you're doing? And he immediately tosses an axe. And Hody's just... I like this. We've not seen two villains turn on each other like this, where they're
this felt very Alabasta to me.
Yeah,
but somehow even kind of more fun. There's something about Crocodile taking out Robin that felt very kind of one-sided. But this is like, oh no, they're both out for blood at this point. Like I did not remember this at all, so I'm actually loving that kind of getting the fight a bit, and it's that. Stabbing him with the javelin might be the coolest thing Hody's ever done. Yeah. It's certainly the coolest he's ever looked.
And he even is like, hey, you betrayed me first. But on the other hand, breaking the island's bubble was a good idea. It will destroy Fishman Island, but the Fishman district is on the sea floor. So if you die here, the effects of your power will wear off, and the ship will plummet right back out into the island and obliterate everything. So that's what my new plan is. I'm going to let everyone die.
Yeah, all right, screw it.
He's like, yeah. I got to make sure to take care of the Straw Hats. Thousands of my men will die, but I can always get more slaves.
God, and then they kind of fight it out a little bit, and you see the axe that Vanderdecken threw. Like, it kind of comes back, and it looks like Hody just, like, moves Vanderdecken in the way of his own axe.
Yeah.
Which is just brutal.
This is actually a really cool showdown, and actually emphasizes, well, obviously, Hody's hopped up on pills, and Vanderdecken is not. But Vanderdecken uses his extra feet to kick out with pointed shoes to try to stab at Hody, and Hody's able to dodge it.
Notice that.
As the axe that he threw before is coming back, and Hody just chomps down on Vanderdecken's leg, and that's when he just flips him over to get hit by the axe. And I gotta say, that's a pretty boss move by Hody.
This is a great sequence.
It's like, oh yeah, when he's not fighting Luffy or Zoro, Hody is kind of badass.
Yeah. I feel like we're like, oh right, this villain needs something. So,
but of course, he still needs to kill Shirahoshi before any of that. So to get rid of any and all threats. And Hody jumps out, and he just rips through the princes, and they're just like, hey, Shirahoshi, you gotta get away. And that's another thing for his new powers. He's faster than a mermaid, which is the fastest of all swimmers, which is nuts. It's like, oh, cool, they actually are showing just how strong he is, finally.
I like Luffy is actually able to... He comes in for the save with his gum snake shot. Hody kind of grabs his arm, but I do like that, like, yeah, his devil fruit powers aren't really working quite as they should, because he's underwater. Mm-hmm. Or it's like Luffy's still in the bubble, but his arm is in the water, so it's kind of not quite as effective.
Yeah, it's still weakened, but it's enough to draw Hody's attention.
Yeah, exactly.
And Hody, of course, just taunts him. It's like, you don't have the strength to protect a single thing. It's like, no, I'll protect everything. Shirahoshi, Fishman Island, the crew, I trained the last 2 years for that. And
yeah, Luffy now knows what loss feels like, and he's had enough.
yeah, it's quite nice. But we go back to the plaza, and Watatsumi is crying because he was left behind by Vanderdecken, and Surume's ready to throw down.
I like it. Yeah, he's ready. He's got hands. Surume, kind of MVP. I love this little guy. He's so good.
I do too. He's great. But that's when Zio comes in and does a pretty decent manipulation. It's like, no. It's like, remember what Vanderdecken told you? The square is in your hands. He had no intention of destroying the island in the first place. And he's like, really? Yeah, now swallow this and let's beat up the Straw Hat crew. So right. He gets an energy steroid. And they're all like, will it really work on a guy? Such a small pill work on a guy that he was like, oh no, he's just really susceptible to drugs.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey. And then I like that. Well, okay, we're kind of establishing what Watatsumi is right now. And here comes Jinbei, who rolls up. Is just having none of it.
Yeah, he punches out Surume, but Jinbei is strong enough that with his 7,000 brick roundhouse kick, he stops his punch.
And then roundhouse kicks his punch. That's awesome.
And then kicks his way up his body, knocking him down. And the great thing is, it's enough of a windfall that it causes Nami to fall over, which upsets Sanji, who proceeds to kick him in the head.
He's like, back on your feet, scum.
And so I did not predict this matchup, but it's actually going to be Sanji and Jinbei versus Watatsumi.
Yeah, no, not what I was thinking at all. But I love it's just like, oh, you put Nami in danger, now I'm going to kill you.
Pretty much. We also see that Hyozu, he got the munchies as he was drunk. Yeah. And he ate a ton of those steroids to the point that he went through a transformation as well. He has the same white hair as Hody, and he is just looking like a really, really happy drunk. And he's just like, oh, I want to cut people. I'm feeling real good about myself right now. And he's coming right for Robin, and I like how Robin doesn't even look phased because
she doesn't care.
Bam! Here's Zoro stopping him immediately. He's like, I know how this works.
Yeah. We called this one way back. Mm-hmm. We're like, okay, yep, there it is. And of course Zoro's just like, yeah, this might be a good warm up.
So that could be a fun matchup. We'll have to see how it all goes. But that's it for the chapter. It's just like, of course, this is gonna be our matchup here. Some other interesting SBS stuff here where we have our top 5 mermaid dancers on the ones we met before when Sanji had his accident. And we get to see what kind of fish they're based on for each one. So that's neat. And then also I love this explanation, like how he often has Luffy speak in really informal ways because just to show him not understanding things. And they were asking, why is sun written the way it is? Well, it's because these fishmen don't really understand the sun. So he had him write it like that in order to emphasize that fact.
I appreciate this because it's getting kind of into the weeds on kanji and kana and stuff like that. But basically, you could think of it like a kanji, because they are like each character represents like a concept. So if you're using kanji to describe a word, it does evoke kind of like a mental imagery, right? Mm-hmm. It has a kind of a specificity to it. And so Oda's basically saying that like when he writes out sun as in sun pirates, he uses the kana, which I think in this case, it might just be the English word sun, like sun, as opposed to using the Japanese word for sun, which is taiyo. I would have to double check that. It is cool the way that he's explaining basically like how he is using the language in Japanese to kind of like, do I want this to evoke a very specific kind of thing, or do I want it to be kind of a broad, vague, general concept? And that's just, Japanese is just such a language that you can kind of just do that.
Oh, that's so wild.
Yeah, it's cool. I love kanji. I'm such a dork for this stuff.
All good. Well, let's get to our final chapter for the set, 640, Above Fishman Island. And we finally get to see how Vivi's doing. not what she's doing, just she's among the people. She's well loved, and she's, of course, 18 years old now. I don't think I realized she was 16 back in the day.
I don't think I realized that either.
Because I think I'm so used to everybody else being like 17. But yeah, she's. I mean, I like the dress. I like the simplicity of it. It honestly reminds me a little bit of what is it, Kaya?
Yeah, I see it.
It's nice. But yeah, we get back into the chapter itself as Watsumi's getting ready to fight Sanji and Jinbei. And we check in on Nami, who uses her, she calls herself Miss Sorceress, but it's not magic, it's science. It's applied science. And she has a storm cloud rod, and she is, man, her being able to wield the weather like that, she is way more effective than she used to be.
She's completely surrounded and keeping her cool and holding her own. Like, this is great.
Mm-hmm. What a difference from her very first fight.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, God. I forgot how down we were on that back then.
It is a step up that we always promised, and it's nice to see.
Yep.
They're not wrong, but I also am a fan of how they keep identifying her as the weak link.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, Zio and the squid guy is getting in there to try to take care of her. As Zio goes invisible, grabs her leg so she can't move, and he's about to the squid guy is going to suck out of her liquids with his weird squids, and that's when Brooke spots her. It's like, oh, is that Nami here? Oh, that reminds me. He jumps in front of her. It's like, might I take a quick gander at those pantaloons? He gets punched by Nami because of that question, while he gets stabbed in the back by the squid.
Yeah. I like the visual gag of this. And not only that, but also, hey, we're going to try to dry out your insides with the squid spear. And it's like, oh, of course, Brooke's already a shriveled husk, so,
The natural enemy of this guy, which, again, should have thought of that pairing before. Kind of smart. I like it.
Yeah. And then I love, like, you turn the page and General Frankie coming in from behind, and he's just like, ain't there anyone around who could actually put up a fight, and punches the squid guy.
It turns out to be Ikaros. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turns out it's not Brooke that's going to be fighting Ikaros. It's Frankie. We'll see how that all goes, I guess. And then we further Zio's whole thing about you're stepping on our boss. And it's like, oh, there is somebody down there. It's like, oh, who are you? It's like, so the reason I couldn't move is because this guy is like, well, how do you like that? What do you mean? I've been headbutting the sole of your foot. You may not feel it now, but you'll feel it later. This might be the best variation of that thing.
Yeah, I like this. Well, I like that. One, Brooke apologizes. He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then I do like that he names this technique, the super soul headbutt.
Yeah, and yay, Brooke has a one-on-one. Cool.
Yeah, which, God, when was the last time that happened?
I don't think, not since he had to he was trying to get his shadow back and he lost.
Yeah.
Daruma is still causing trouble with all the caverns, and he's into a competition with Chopper. Hammerhead guy tries to take out Usopp from behind, but hey, they are ready because they've done this before, and Chopper uses his horn cannon to knock out the Hammerhead guy, while Usopp uses his Green Star Skull Bomb Grass to just explode the caverns underneath, which, hey, direct callback to Alabasta and fighting the Mole Woman.
Yeah, which is awesome. I didn't think about that at all. It was just like, oh yeah, this is exactly like that fight with Miss Merry Christmas. So
we have that direct comparison of how these two fought before together.
Yeah.
And see how much they improved.
Yeah, I think pointing out the direct comparison and being like, no, we're much better equipped this time, like that gets my fist pumping.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I do like how, like, Usopp's like, all right, you got my back, Chopper? Let's do this. We're going to get this done. And it's like, wait, Chopper? Just because Chopper just got paired up with Dosa and the Hammerhead, while Usopp, surprisingly, is the one who's going to be taking on Daruma.
I think I called this like 4 episodes ago.
Honestly, I was at this point, I was predicting that Chopper was going to be fighting Daruma, but
right,
no.
Yeah, because they both had the digging. But one, God, I'm excited to see Chopper get another 1v1. I feel like none of these fights are probably going to last all that long. I would be surprised if they did, but it is also fun. Like, oh, Usopp thought that this was going to be a 2-on-1, but no, he's all by his lonesome.
Yeah, have to do what he can. We do check in on Zoro versus Yozu, but it's literally 2 panels of him blocking. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, and the kids are asking Charlie, like, is what's going to happen to us? It's like,
yeah, basically, yeah.
We get back to Luffy confronting Hody. He's just deriding him for saying he's going to protect everything. And the brothers are basically like, oh God, if Deccan's been knocked out, his powers will run out and the arc will fall right onto the island. So Shirahoshi, you've got to go to the side to make sure this doesn't happen. And that's when he gets hit by the shark slicer from Hody.
Oh.
Hody's just ready, saying is he's ready for it to be taken out like that. Like Luffy's ready to fight in the middle of the water. He's like, take me over to Shirahoshi. I got to protect her. And they're heading over there to try to help her out. And Luffy is able to get a hold of Hody, not able to get a great grip, but enough to barely throw him off. He's basically like, come on, Decken, die already. I can't have the ship falling at the wrong angle. And that ship's not going to fall as long as he has a sliver of consciousness. And sure enough, we go back to Vanderdecken, who's still alive. And he's just like, no, all right, I'm going to be on, you're my left-hand target now. I'm going to trail you until the day you die. And it'll be me that kills. And then he just slips and falls and knocks his head against a block and passes out.
That's it. And he's out. I on the one hand, I was kind of like, man, I just be done with it. Like I feel like the end of this chapter is a whole lot of jumping around and a whole lot of explaining what we kind of already know. But if Vanderdecken has to go out by just slipping and falling, you know what, I'm kind of okay with it.
It's kind of perfect, isn't it? It's just
yeah.
It's just appropriately silly enough for him because he's not strong. He's just annoying.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fitting end.
Yep. But we end with this awesome 2-page spread of Noah right above Ryugu Castle and Fishman Island, and again, the sense of scale is awesome.
I feel like every time I see it, it is just like impossibly huge. Like it is bigger than. I mean, I feel like it's basically bigger than Fishman Island itself.
Almost. I mean, we've seen the scale to it. It's basically about a third of the size, nearly.
Yeah.
But we see those little specks at the front of the ship, and that is our protagonist.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're right.
And that really does lead to the question: is like, how in the world are they going to stop this thing?
I told you, like, okay, here at the end of the set, like, now that we've got everybody's in place, we've got our ticking time bomb with Noah. Like, this feels like we're kind of reaching the end here.
We have our matchups. I don't think we think that they're going to take long at all. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think any of these fights are going to be super long. It really does feel like the wrap up is coming, not the wrap up, but the end of the fight is coming soon.
Yeah. I think we're pretty close at this point. But all in all, not bad.
I enjoyed it. Like I said, Noah went a long way in making this so much more interesting.
That was the secret sauce we were missing this whole time, was like, oh, now there's this foreboding sense of urgency. I do kind of hope, I don't know when or if we're going to learn more lore about it, but it is just kind of funny how this thing that was in the background for the whole arc was like, okay, no, now is the time, but we kind of don't really understand what it is or what it's for, which I feel like is really not. I sort of like the idea that somebody as petty as Vanderdecken was just like, here is this like ancient relic, and I'm just gonna yeet it. Now,
well, yeah, because he's not actually from here, so he doesn't care.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, he doesn't care.
I like the set. It's not amazing or anything, but it's a fun set. It built up things as it should. So that's really all I could say.
Yeah, it feels like we're moving right along. And look at that. We came in at like an hour. When was the last time that happened?
Weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, with that, I believe we've said all we wanted to say about chapters 636 to 640 of One Piece. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube, or BitNerd with an underscore at the end on Twitter, and over at Blue Sky with just BitNerd, no underscore. So, Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I'm Brandon Bovia on Twitter and Blue Sky. Thank you for... I had forgotten that we were going to do that. Haven't been super active lately. Just been busy. Just try not to overwork myself. So don't have a lot of interesting, insightful things about work or current anime or manga or games or anything like that. But I'll have to get back on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I have a lot of insightful things. I find I have two subjects. I either talk about my son or on Blue Sky, I talk about King of Fighters because I've been playing that series. So
Heck yeah.
There you go. But hey, if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derek Bittner. That's DERRICKBITNER to listen to the next episode ad-free 3 days early. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 641 to 645 of One Piece. So until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
You're just a weakling, get it? You can't protect anyone.
Watch me. I'll save them all. I've trained for 2 years. I'm ready.